Hello everyone, this is Gear254 here, and welcome back to another Minecraft tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be going ahead and doing something a bit different, and this is going to be focused around how to kind of create some destroyed looking tanks on your battlefields, and basically modifying my designs to create these really cool effects. Now, before I go ahead and jump into further talking about this topic, I do want to go ahead and give a thanks to Owen Brost for commissioning this build. If you guys are interested in commissioning builds of your own, definitely feel free to reach out to me through my email, garrett2by4@gmail.com. And we can go ahead and discuss pricing and all that stuff for commissions. Yeah, again, a big thanks to Owen for commissioning this build, and definitely look forward to working with some of you other guys in the future to build some pretty cool stuff here. Now, as I was saying, this is a little bit going to be a different type of video. Most of the time we're doing a block-by-block tutorial. This one here is going to be more of like a concept tutorial per se, so similar to like what I've done with like my trench tutorials and stuff. I kind of give you the general idea of what you could do, and then it's up to you guys to really kind of implement it into a large scale. So this video is going to cover stuff like showing your tank detract, scorching, burning, how to, create the fire effects and stuff like that you see in the background, stuff like that. And it's not going to be exactly, taking the tank here, building it up from the ground up with the levels of destruction and detail that you can see here. So again, it's going to be up to you guys to implement on your own and all that. With that though, let's go ahead and dive in here, just take a look at the 4 designs I have, the 4 concepts, and we'll again be kind of taking bits and pieces for each of these concepts to create some pretty cool looking tanks. Now the tank in front of me I'm using is a T-72B3, really no particular reason, just because I think the Russian tanks, especially in Ukraine, we've seen have a lot higher level of destruction compared to that of more Western tanks, and that's just due to the ammo carousel they have and not the blowout panels. So you're going to see a lot more of like the ammo cook-offs and the turret rack, or the completely turret racks, turret popping, and just completely destroyed tanks, rather than the Western like the Leopard and Abrams, which have the blowout panels, which really decreases the level of destruction. But you could still apply these to those if you really wanted to. With that though, let's go ahead and dive in here to take a look at this. We have the first one here, which is just a completely destroyed tank. This thing is a complete goner. You can see it's completely scorched. This whole thing was probably a fireball, so everything's just really burnt, crispy. The road wheels are destroyed here. The turret actually got probably popped off and is laying here next to the tank as well. So again, just showing that level of destruction. The turret completely flew off. We have the ground around it all burnt and scorched where the fire was probably burning here, and we just have the engine bay that's been popped open, some campfires in there to show like a smoldering effect where it's still a little bit of smoke, and yeah, you can just see here just real total destruction on this tank. There really isn't much to salvage, if anything at all. So just again, one concept you can do. This one's pretty much like your tank's completely destroyed. Next one here we have here is more of like a disabled look. I mean, it's probably repairable, but still heavy damage. You have basically probably a heavy HE round or missile basically hit the side of the tank. Didn't penetrate the tank, but it blew the tracks completely off. You can see we have some scorching here from the explosion, probably a little bit of fire on the ground, and one of the road wheels is missing, and the other ones are all kind of destroyed and deformed, and just all kind of messed up here. And we have the track hanging down; it's detracked as well. So just really heavily destroyed tank or damaged tank, but probably somewhat repairable. Over here we have, again, pretty much total destruction. The tank having an ammo cook-off. So the hatches got blown open for the commander and the gunner. So just completely blown off. And the ammo's cooking off. So you have your kind of like columns of fire, your sparks, and your smoke going up. So just a kind of more basic level of destruction, but not having a full ammo explosion like this one right here. So this one right here is the turret completely popping, so you have the fire explosion, smoke, turret flying up in the air, and sparks and all that. And of course, I also went ahead and include this little shockwave around the build, which I thought was pretty cool to kind of show like the dust is being pushed out by the shockwave, because obviously this explosion here is going to be pretty catastrophic, so I wanted to show that effect of it. So those right there is kind of the 4 design concepts. We'll be taking bits and pieces of each one of these and just really kind of covering each section one by one to really show these effects. And yeah, with that, let's go ahead and dive into the tutorial by beginning with our first concept. Alright guys, so the first concept we'll be covering here is how to show your tank having track damage. Now, The very basic way to do this is it's super simple. Most of my tanks here, we pretty much have this upside down stair. You might have a wall, some block that's going to be basically your leading edge of the track here. Now we have our first road wheel, so all we're going to do is delete the stair here. We're going to place down a deep slate tile slab, which will be basically the track, and then just a couple dark oak with trapdoors there. And you can see doing that simple effect there really shows that the track's just laying on the ground. It's been disabled, and I think it's a really just straightforward idea. We could do the same thing on the back here. So let's say that we want to go ahead and go to the back. We could also just delete, on this tank in particular, I have a wall. Some might have stairs. Again, just kind of depends on the tank you're building. But we have, again, our road wheel, our last one here. We'll just place down this, and we have our trapdoors back. So again, it's really straightforward way to show just the track laying on the ground, make it look like it's been detracked. And when you look at this, you're gonna be like, oh, that tank's demobilized. It's not moving anywhere. Its track's damaged. And just a real kind of basic, probably one of the easiest things you can do to show some battle damage on a tank. But that's it there for really showing our tank being detracked, and we'll be moving into a little bit more of a complex design, which is going to be showing a direct hit to the side of the tank, some road wheel damage, and damage to the side of the tank as well. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So our next concept is going to be talking about doing destruction to basically the side of the tank. Now this video is going to cover doing destruction to the engine bay and also the side of the tank. The turret, really there's not too much we can really do around it. I mean, besides maybe showing some missing ERA, but really the main focus of damage is really going to come from the more vulnerable parts of the tank, which are going to be the sides and the engine compartment, which I think are pretty universally where most of that damage is going to occur. But anyways, we're going to pick on the side of our tank. You can see this one here has some side skirts, so your tank may have side skirts, your tank may not. Just again depends on the tank. But we'll go ahead and just kind of delete our section. So we're going to do our damage right here in this section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the side skirts because these got completely blown off the tank in this attack. We're going to delete these blocks as well, so we kind of have just a gaping space right here. So a lot of damage happened in this area, and it's just going to kind of look destroyed. Now the next focus here is our road wheels. So the road wheels here again are going to be pretty much one of the weaker points. A lot of destruction is going to happen from these. We're going to go ahead and just delete these blocks here entirely, and we're going to go ahead and swap them out for some fence gates. So you can see what we're creating here is basically where the road wheels once sat. And what we can do next is we can go ahead and kind of show the road wheels on the ground. So we can maybe put like a slab here and, maybe a stair if we wanted to as well. So like the road wheels are just kind of to the side here. They've been pushed to the side. You can even put like your stair right here if you wanted to. But yeah, the road wheels are just basically destroyed, and you kind of get that effect there with seeing just the axles there for the tank. Now around those, we can also do damage to these road wheels. And since our center of damage is going to be right here, it's going to dampen as it progresses outward. So for this right here, I'm just going to go ahead and put down a wall instead, so kind of deform this road wheel a little bit. And then this back here, again, I'm going to delete this and just place down a slab. So you get that effect there that these road wheels around it are just kind of destroyed, kind of melted, probably from fire, the explosion, who knows, but they just look very destroyed. And it's a pretty simple effect there. And yeah, you pretty much get the general idea there. And then to really kind of bring this home, I think, is to show the tracks getting involved. So obviously our tracks would go this way, loop up around. We'll place down a slab here. And then we could put like, what would be a good block for this? Probably like our pressure plates. So we can grab our polished, there we go, polished blackstone pressure plate, put it like a pressure plate on top there, so the tracks are just kind of damaged sitting there. And you can even have like some tracks on the ground here, or maybe we put a stair like this of our track material, so the track looks like it kind of just comes down like this. So there's a lot of things you can do there for that, and if you wanted to as well, you can again damage the structure. Really it's just kind of the amount of damage you want to do for it. So we could have like this, so it looks like the panel is just kind of destroyed and messed up looking. So that's really kind of how to do the destruction in terms of like doing a side hit to the tank. So this is again designed maybe by like an HE shell hitting it. It didn't penetrate the tank, but it definitely did some damage and kind of blew this section off. So again, this is definitely some damage you can do. You can combine this with again any of the other things we're going to talk about concept-wise. But this is some really bad destruction here on the side of the tank, and all that. And you could also do the same thing up here near the front if you want to do like landmine damage and all that. It's very versatile in what you can do. And again, this is just a concepts video, so we're just talking about the ways you can go about destroying this. So that's what I would do right there for showing some heavy track damage. And our next section is going to be talking about the engine bay. Moving into our next concept, we're going to be going ahead and talking about the engine bay. Now, this tank here, you gotta feel bad for it. It's already looking in pretty rough shape, but we're going to go ahead and modify this even further by going ahead and showing the engine bay has been disabled as well. So for this, really there's a bunch of ways you can do this. You can just have some fire coming out of the back here. But for us, we're going to show kind of the panels have been blown off a little bit and the engine's a little bit exposed. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to go ahead and delete basically the space here where our engine would sit, so presumably probably around this area right here, and we could just build, you know, somewhat of an engine design. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything, just, you know, when you look at it, you're like, okay, you know, that looks like probably the engine of the tank. You know, it's not super exact or precise to what the T-72 in this particular case actually has. If you want to do that research, you more than can, but we just basically have the engine exposed like this. So really straightforward, just kind of the engine's propped open like this. And we can go ahead and grab ourselves some slabs, and we can maybe cover one side here with like slabs, so like, you know, the compartment's kind of opened up like this, and then maybe like some trap doors there to kind of again show that open. And we could also just have trap doors right here opened up like this, so the engine bay just looks kind of blown open. So maybe it took like a hit somewhere through it and, you know, hit the engine and blew these panels open. And we can kind of really hone in on this design a little bit later. But you can kind of see the idea here. We're just basically having some doors that look like they're open and the engine's exposed. So just kind of a good way to show, again, some damage there. Obviously, people are going to look at it and be like, yeah, that's not supposed to be open like that. So just a cool little concept you can do for that. But with that, we're going to move into our next topic, which is going to really kind of bring all these ideas together, and that is going to be scorching. So basically show damage from fire around the areas of impact. Alright guys, so moving into our next topic of interest, we're going to be talking about scorching. Now this here is going to apply both for the ground texturing and also for the texturing around the tank. And again, it's going to kind of vary on the levels of destruction you guys want. So for example, if you look back over here, this tank, we had, you know, just some scorching around the area of damage, so the area of impact. This one here, the tank got completely destroyed, so your whole tank is going to be covered in this type of technique. So again, it just depends on the level of destruction you're going for, and we'll talk about kind of focus areas here, and then again, we can dive a little bit further more into a whole tank concept. So for example, we're going to be going back to this section here. We have our destroyed road wheels, you know, direct hit here to the tank. It's pretty beat up. But we're going to show that impact by really honing in on the detail here. Now what we're going to do for this is we're going to go and again focus on our areas of impact, and that's where we're going to go and put our focus of darker colored materials. So for me, I think polished blackstone is a great tool to use. So we're going to be using that on this section. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of darken the areas around impact. So right here, definitely, you know, looks like some fire damage took place, and we can also darken the sides here of the turret because again, the fire explosion, this whole area is probably scorched up. And we'll go ahead and also replace the walls here. So we'll use some polished blackstone walls as well for this technique. So we'll replace the wall here like that. And then also some slabs. So we'll replace these slabs here as well. Again, just showing this whole area just kind of burnt out. And we'll do the same thing right there. And probably also for this block as well. So you can see here that already kind of just elevated this area. We'll expand upon this a little bit further by grabbing ourselves some glass. So we have our black stained glass, and we'll just go ahead and place down some glass there, again darkening this area here. And we're not going to do like a huge section. You know, this is an explosion that hit, probably a fire started right here, and it didn't burn the whole tank. So we're going to keep this pretty minimal. We just really want to focus in on the damage areas, and you can make this as big as you guys want. I'm not saying, you know, you're stuck to just doing this size. This again, whole concept is really based around you guys going crazy and doing what you want to do for it. So again, we have basically this whole area really kind of burnt out, and you can see that effect right there just really brings that whole design together. It shows that that tank is damaged. Now, we have this all done here, but let's talk about the ground for a second. Obviously, you got hit right here. You have a fire. You want to show some ground detail. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go and swap in some polished blackstone again. Some black concrete powder I think works really good. But we're just going to really show some burning effects around the ground. And also, don't be afraid to use like the coral blocks. The dead coral works really good at showing like ash effects. So we have some of the ash from the vehicle burning. And we're going to go ahead and lay these around as well, probably closer to the actual damaged area as the ash, came off of it and landed in piles. But we're going to go ahead and just kind of expand this out. And you can go as far as you guys want. I personally would, not go too far for this type of level of damage. But we just have a small fire and the, explosion kind of singed the ground around it. Now, in addition to this, if we are going to grab ourselves some coral, so some of these dead coral pieces, and they work really good at showing more kind of like piles of ash. So you can kind of throw these here and there, and they just kind of create a little bit more of an effect that there's actually like little piles of ash there around the vehicle. As well as you can even throw them on the side of blocks as well to just show, again, some more variety of damage, some twisted metal or something right there in that area. But you can just add them here and there to just throw in some extra detail. And don't go overboard. Don't place on every block, but just here and there really brings that idea together. So as you can see, that's what we have going on there, and it works really good. You have some really good scorching. You have some ground effects here, and as well as we can put some polished blackstone buttons here and there to really just kind of show like, hey, there's some pieces, some fragments, and you can even throw in some wither skeleton skulls if you want as well for, again, some more metal or, just pieces of the tank laying on the ground from where it got disabled. So just kind of going on the topic here, just a little side note, if you have your tank near grass, so let's say you're on a road, you have some grass next to it, don't be afraid to use these dead corals as burnt grass. So when the fire spread, obviously it's going to probably hit the grass, it's going to scorch it a little bit, burn it. This works really good at showing like some burnt grass, and was a little thing I was experimenting with. I thought it looked really good. Obviously you could have a huge portion of your field look like it got burnt, but for me I just kind of had like it got singed here on the outer edges. Over here you can kind of see a better example of it too. Again, we have basically the scorch marks here and there, and the fire basically spread a little bit. Honestly, these blocks right here should probably be coral as well. So again, we can kind of just take the blocks around these scorch marks and again just add our coral there to show that that's been burnt out, like burnt grass, burnt foliage. I think it works really good for this topic. And just a little side note there for expand upon your ground details for scorching areas. Now, when it comes to the engine bay, again, for scorching, we're going to basically use the same concepts. So this whole area here, we're going to go ahead and basically darken up. Really, the main thing we want to focus on is getting that bottom of it. So let's say we had our engine burnout. We definitely want to show that. So we're going to go ahead and basically darken this whole bottom section here of the tank to make it look like it's been burnt up. And also, obviously, we're going to want to get these sidewalls darkened up as well. And stuff like that. So we'll do that. We'll have these panels here darkened, maybe this back section here as well. So again, if you had a fire here, it's probably going to burn this whole area pretty well. So we'll do that. And again, we'll kind of darken that like so. And again, we can throw in our little corals here to show that level of damage. And like this. So here and there, just have some ash kind of sitting and resting around there. We'll probably also want to replace the wither skeleton skulls, or these skulls here with wither skeleton, just to kind of hone in that. So this whole back, anything on the back of the turret here, I'd probably recommend, destroying, having it look like it's on fire. This whole area is burning. The engine's pretty hot. You got fuel, oil, very flammable things. So this fire is going to burn good. It's going to burn hot, and you want to make sure that shows. So again, we're just kind of detailing here around the rear of the turret. And that is going to create this effect here on the back. So I think it looks really good, and just really kind of hones in that there's an engine fire here. This whole area has been pretty damaged. So that's a good way to do it. You can also show destruction in the actual engine bay as well if you wanted. So I know in particular for me, I went ahead and put like some dead brain coral here and there, just to kind of show like maybe like a bit of ash built up on top of these, top portions of the engine. So like this, obviously, and then some dead coral, so it looks a little destroyed. And you could also even just do something super simple, like replacing the pistons that I used. We could use damaged anvils. So you can just do something like this. So some damaged anvils, and it just looks like it's damaged. I mean, you don't have to go too crazy with it. Most of the time when people see this, they're going to be like, yeah, that's destroyed. So this T-72 is looking in terrible shape right now. It's pretty bad, but we have the scorching effects done. And also, again, if you have your engine burning, you could put some effects here on the ground, like some ash. So like when it was burning, some ash kind of fell down here. Maybe some bits of fire fell down, so this whole area on the ground started getting, started lighting on fire as well. So you can kind of do this like around the sides here of it so that it looks like the fire, maybe like a spark or something landed next to it, or, a little tiny explosion popped, a little flammable piece and it started burning. But you can throw the ash around, stuff like that, to just really hone in that effect. Like, hey, there's fire and it burnt the area around it a little bit. It wasn't a major fire to where the whole tank burned, but at this point with this amount of damage, this whole tank is pretty toast. But you can see here just how like good this looks in terms of just what we've done so far. We've just messed up some of the tracks, the engine, and then you go through and you add this scorching effect. You're going to really hone in on some really cool ideas, and it's going to really start to come together as a destroyed looking tank. Now, that's really all we have here for showing actual damage. You can apply this however you guys want. What we're going to move into next is going to be probably the removal of a turret. So this is going to be a concept that is going to definitely apply to more of a tank that uses a ammo carousel. It doesn't have that blowout panels, but removing the turret is also a really good tool you can use to show your tank disabled. So we're going to move on to that next. So the next topic we're going to talk about is removing a tank turret. Now, this is pretty straightforward. Really, all you're going to do is you're going to find the point where the turret starts on a tank and just take that section, everything up from there for the turret, and just move it to the side. So really, all you can see here is I just ripped my T-72 turret off. It was easier than some tanks. Some tanks it's a little bit more tricky with how the block level is and if it's slabs and stuff like that. But T-72 super easy. We just have a full block top here. Went ahead and just ripped it off and built it to the side here, and that's all you need to do. We have the tank turret. We don't want to. You can build it however you want, but I have it a little bit more forward from where it would have started or sat on the tank. So it's just to the side here, and the turret's on the ground. So obviously you had some sort of catastrophic damage, and this is really only going to apply to an ammo cook-off, so the tank turret completely exploded off. And you can set this turret however far away from it as you want. I have it relatively close, as this was probably just a minor, I say minor, but minor catastrophic explosion happened here. So that's what we have going on. Now, obviously we have this flat space here. We want to show that this was a turret ring, make this look a little bit like the interior of the tank. So for this, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete a 3x3 square here for where our turret sat, and I'm just going to go ahead and put walls around there in the corners. This space is a little bit interesting because we have the damage to the tracks. If you have this area filled in full blocks, you're pretty much good. So if it looks like this side here, really not a big deal. But for us, if you're in this situation here, you can always use trapdoors to kind of help form that wall around there and just kind of show, this turret ring. So this is where our turret ring sat. And if we had a catastrophic explosion like this, you're going to want to damage the inside here. There's no question about it. So we're going to go ahead and take our polished blackstone and just basically replace the entire floor there of the vehicle. Now, we also probably want to replace the blocks on this side here, because an explosion at that level, definitely there's going to be some carbon scoring from the fire and the explosion. So we're going to kind of just do the area around it. And the interesting part here is you're going to run into this area where you might have the sloped armor really affecting this. And we have, in my resource pack, we have these as the end portal frames. If you're on Java, you can definitely get around this by going ahead and using pistons. Pistons kind of sit at the same level, and they have that darker complexion to them. So we can use pistons, and then we can use the debug tool. So we can use the debug tool here, just go ahead and right-click them, and then get rid of that wood portion. This middle section here, we're going to go ahead and also swap out just for a full block. But you can kind of do something like this, and if you wanted to as well, you can have the effect kind of go down a little bit. But we don't want to go too crazy. We do want to leave some green on this build. this one had a catastrophic ammo explosion, but the whole tank didn't burn. And if you wanted to have the whole tank burn, you just basically would do the same concepts we've done before, where we have, the burnt portion expand to all the way around the tank. And I think it's pretty straightforward kind of what we're doing here in terms of that. But we're just going to go and do that, and you have the effect here that this has been blown open. Now we can also add in some, dead coral and stuff like that, again, if we wanted to represent some ash. What I've also done here for this example here is I've used campfires. So a really nice technique here is to just go ahead and replace this, delete the slab here, place down a campfire, and I would like delete this trapdoor and place down like a coral fan or dead coral on it, so it kind of hides it a little bit better, but you get that smoked effect there. So something's still kind of burning a little bit in the tank, but it's not, crazy level of explosion or fire like what we have going on there. So just a nice trickle there for the fire. And then that's really about it. I mean, you're pretty much just going to have this circular hole in the vehicle just kind of cut out. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot we can do for trying to show the driver's compartment or anything just based on the size of it, but just something like that alone just really shows, like, the turret got blown off. And you can take the same effect and use your fire effect over here on this turret. Just, again, kind of maybe burning some areas around it. And if we go and take a look at my proper example I did, you can see that effect here. So I just went ahead and showed the whole turret completely burnt. And one thing that I found pretty interesting with looking at photos of reference of actual destroyed vehicles is that this mud brick works really well for showing like the paint's been burned off and the metal's been burned very slightly. So it's not catastrophically like scorched, but it is burnt. So you can do like this, adding this in here for areas that probably burned but weren't too bad. So the paint's just really been kind of melted off of it and burnt off of it, and that's what is left. So you can do that in kind of areas a little bit further from the explosion. So you can see my tank took a direct hit in this area and blew up with the turret. So I have, again, some more minor effects here on the back. And then over here on this side, again, some more kind of minor. You can even have some green still showing on the tank. But, just some ideas there for what you can do to really show like areas that were burned a little bit more heavily than others. And of course, if you have your turret pop off, you can also have some fire that also has burned around it. So you can see I expanded that scorched area around the tank to include a little bit of the turret as well. So just kind of some things to keep in mind there when you're going ahead and designing these. Really, it isn't too complicated of a concept. It's just really doing whatever you think looks good and just experimenting around with the different ideas and concepts you can use to make these things pretty awesome. But that's going to be it for showing a turret popped off and laying on the ground. And we're going to be moving into one of our more interesting sections, which will be covering the different fire effects and explosion effects you can use on your build. Alrighty, guys. So moving into our next section of the build, I'm going to be going ahead and talking about doing an engine fire. So an engine fire here is going to be really straightforward and really using the same things we're going to be using for doing like an ammo rack and stuff like that. Just kind of on a middle scale, I guess, in terms of the amount of flames we have. But we have our engine bay here, obviously, on the back of the tank. And if you wanted to, you can combine it with what we did previously, where we have like the engine showing the doors or the covers over the engine just blown off. And you can obviously add your fire effects on top of this, or you could just have it coming out of the vents. So this area is just burning and the doors are still there, or the doors aren't. And, you can just kind of go from there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and pinpoint our engine bay. So it's going to be this area right here. And we're going to go and start off with yellow stained glass. And we could also use a little bit of glowstone. So we could use some glowstone to kind of give our fire a little bit of light. We're not going to use it too heavily. We just want it to form a little bit of light around the more central area where it's coming from. We're going to go ahead and then use yellow stained glass, definitely around the direct area of impact, or the closest area of impact, because the fire is going to be yellow where it's hottest. So we're going to go ahead and definitely put more emphasis on this area right here, because this area is going to be the hotter part of the fire. And that's why we're also using the glowstone in this area, because it is the, hotter part and the part that's going to be glowing the most and just having the most going on about it. So as you can see, just went ahead and we have some pretty intense flames going on here. Then we're going to go and transition to a little bit of orange stained glass, and we can put orange here also around the tops here of our yellow. We don't want to go too crazy high with it. Also, feel free to change or use your debug stick here for my Java players, or use chains here instead, so you don't have this awkward effect where your fence gates are connecting to the fire. Obviously, you don't want that going on. But we're just going to go ahead and kind of build this up. So just kind of maybe have like some flames coming out here. Again, we can have like a larger flame over here. So that's kind of coming out like this. And we're just kind of creating a effect that looks like a fire. You're going to look at this, you're going to be like, yeah, that looks like a fire there's going on. So we have some orange tip there around the tops of the flames. So something kind of like that there. Again, we don't want to go too heavy with it because it is, simply just an engine fire. So that's going on there. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be going ahead and grabbing ourselves some blocks. Now, you guys have probably all seen fires, so I'm not going to go ahead and harp on it too much. But with smoke, you're going to have darker smoke around the base of the fire. I think it's pretty straightforward. Really don't need to talk about that too much, but we're going to be using light gray wool. So when it comes to doing the smoke effects, I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with smoke. It's usually darker here around the base of the fire and gets a little bit lighter as it goes on. But for us, we're just going to go ahead and take some gray wool here, and we're just going to kind of create that really dark black smoke effect here around the base of the fire. I wouldn't use black per se. I mean, you could use black wool if you wanted to, but I think black's just a little too intensive for the type of fire we have here. But we're just going to go ahead and kind of put this in. Don't be afraid to put some glass panes in, some glass full blocks. And as you can see, I'm just kind of randomizing it. I'm not really doing any kind of particular pattern. Just really trying to just simply show the effect that, like, hey, there's smoke here. This is burning, So we're just going to go ahead and kind of continue this up. And don't be afraid to move it. So it starts moving back a little bit. And, the wind gets a hold of it and adjusts it. And we're going to then adjust into light gray wool. And again, this can change however you guys want it. You can go higher with it. You can go lower. Don't be afraid to mix in some light gray wool, maybe kind of right here, so have a little bit of like a mixture as they intertwine and change. We don't want just a straight flat line where the light gray starts and the dark gray ends. So just adding a little light gray here and there really adds that effect there. So we're just going to kind of keep building this up here, and we're going to get a little bit thinner as we go up. So again, this will definitely change in terms of how long this is burning, what you've been doing with it. So just going to keep going up. Again, we'll throw our light gray in here and there. And then once we get to our very tippy top here, we're going to go and switch entirely to glass full blocks. And we're going to kind of make this a little bit thinner. So it's transitioning here and boom, something like that. So as you can see, just really it's just placing blocks. I mean, I'm not doing them any random particular way, but you can see we have the dark smoke here on the bottom. We have a little bit of a gradient where it changes into light gray, and the light gray brings all the way up, and then we transition to just fully glass, so it's somewhat visible when it goes up. So something you could do there. I mean, you could also do the opposite where you have a thinner stream right here and a bigger cloud right there where it's kind of accumulated, but I think this really looks the best in terms of showing a fresh engine fire. It's something that's just kind of happened. So that's the way you can do the engine fires. They're pretty straightforward, and using those concepts right there, you can create some really cool effects there and show your tanks on fire there on the back. With that, though, we're going to go ahead and move into our next topic, which is going to be talking about the ammo rack to where the fire's coming out of the hatches. So let's go ahead and move on to that. And this next effect we're going to be going ahead and working on is going to be the fire coming out of the hatches. So again, really, you just need to pinpoint where your hatches are. So we have a hatch here and a hatch there on the tank. We're going to go ahead and delete this and the block underneath it to go ahead and get started here. Now, like the similar concept, we're going to be going ahead and using glowstone here as basically the base here of it. So it's going to show that really glowing effect there near where the fire source is. Now we're going to go ahead and place down yellow stained glass, again close to that fire. And we're going to go ahead and then take this up with some orange glass. So this hatch over here is a little bit larger, so I'm going to show a little bit more fire going up from this one as an effect. But yes, just again the same concepts here. You have the fire shooting out the top here of the build, and just creating this this effect that it's cooking off. It's not a good day for anybody inside. At this point, they are probably not with us anymore. But you're just gonna go and take this and go up like so. So again, we have the fire just kind of shooting up like that on the build. And we can even throw some stuff in here like this. And again, if you have this connections right here with the antenna, you can swap the antenna out for chains, or just, you know, basically use your debug stick, whichever you choose. So you can see we have the fire going up from the hatches. Pretty basic, straightforward effect there. And we're going to go and switch into our smoke. So our smoke here, we're going to be, again, using the same concepts. If you watched the previous portion where we were talking about the... lose my train of thought here. If we were talking about the engine fire here, so we're going to go ahead and just, again, use our dark gray wool near the bottom here. And don't be afraid to intertwine it also with around the fire as well in the flames. So we'll have some gray wool going up like this. So kind of like so. And again, we'll use our full blocks here as well around it, so you can see it's really creating this really nice effect here. And don't be afraid to throw some light gray in there as well. But we're going to go and take this up a little bit like so. I'm not going to go as high with this one as I went with that one, but we're going to have it go up like this, switch over to light gray. And again, we don't want to have it go straight up. We want to definitely angle it a little bit. So I was going a little too straight. I want to have this look like it's catching the wind. So it's kind of going up a little like that is what I'm thinking here. So yeah, again, something like that. We're just kind of having to go back like that. Now, obviously we're going to do the same thing over here as well. So what I like to do, and what I did on the other one, is I wanted to show a little bit of separation between these. So I didn't have these fully connected to each other. So I had a little bit of a gap in between them, as you can see what I'm trying to create here. So you can see there's a little bit of a gap here and there. I did have like some connections, so like a little bit of smoke overlap there, and like down here near the more source of it. So try to keep these streams a little too separate, and then I went ahead and just fully committed it and blended it into the other one. So could do something like this here, and we're just blending this in like that. So the smoke kind of all forms together like so, and it is basically into this one column from here on out. So again, we'll switch to our light gray, put light gray in there, and just something like that there. And boom, you have basically your effect there. You have the ammo cooking off and the smoke basically forming up. So, and again, you can make this as thick as you guys want. We can probably go a little bit thicker with this if we really wanted to. This is going to be, again, a pretty substantial fire. And you're going to have a lot of smoke coming out of the top there of the turret. So again, you can see there, have some pretty good effects. Use a little bit more gray stained glass in this case than I used over here. And so just again, some different ideas you can do there for your smoke, but you get that effect going on there perfectly. And again, we don't have that hard line of smoke. We have that nice transition, some blending between the two different colors. And then with that, the next thing that's going to make this really stand out is going to be the spark effects. And if you've ever seen a picture of a tank with an ammo rack occurring, you're going to have sparks flying off. And the best way to do this really is to use barrier blocks or structure blocks, basically an invisible block, and you're just going to kind of spam them around the source of the explosion. So around this base here, I'm not placing them in any particular way or order. I'm just kind of going crazy with them. And honestly, it's not going to matter. These blocks are invisible, so we're not going to see them. So if they look all weird and all over the place, they're not going to stay like that. They're going to disappear. You're not going to see it. So we have something like that, and we'll let them go invisible, and boom, you don't even see them. So then the next technique here is really just put a bunch of these bamboo buttons, and these are basically acting as sparks, so flying off of it, and we're just going to kind of put them randomly through it. You can even put it like on the actual blocks we were using for smoke as well. And we're going to, again, concentrate this more around the base and the source of it. So not trying to go too crazy as we go further up with the build. So like this, and then we can put maybe like a few up here and there that sparks that made it this far up. But as you can see, you now have an effect here where you have like sparks flying off this section. And again, we can throw them on the bottom of these blocks as well to help really sell that. But yeah, you can see pretty much the general idea there. You got the sparks flying up from the ammo cooking off, and that is just a really good way to show off a nice ammo cook-off. So you have your turret still intact. It's still connected to the build. This is a fresh explosion, so we don't have really any burning. You could put burning around it, so going back to the scorching section, you could, blacken this area a little bit if you wanted to. But we have basically, a tank probably just took a direct hit, and we have the ammo basically cooking off. And if you have a direct hit too, you can do the damage like we did beginning. You can have some beginner starting damage, maybe a little bit of fire effects here on the side if it got hit on the side. And you can combine this ammo cook-off with engine fire as well. There's a lot of things you can do. It's pretty much just, I'm giving you the core concepts, and you can just apply them wherever you want. But that is what you can do there for an ammo cook-off. And with that, let's go ahead and move into the pretty much the main kind of event, the explosion of the turret. The last and final topic we're going to talk about here for destroying your tank is going to be showing a catastrophic ammo explosion, and that pretty much is nicknamed the turret popping. So you can see this is what our final result's going to be. We have the turret lifted up in the air, the explosion, and this tank is just completely annihilated. So to kind of begin with this overall, what we're going to be taking a look at first is you need to separate your turret from your tank. So we have our tank base here, and we have our turret. I went ahead and just put it at this height here. It really doesn't matter the height. It's going to change in whatever you are shooting for this build in terms of the height, the amount of explosive power behind this explosion really is going to be up to you guys. But I wouldn't go like crazy tall. I think it's relatively, this is a pretty decent height for a turret popping. You can even go lower if you so chose to. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create our base here. So the base of our explosion is going to be around this area. So this is where our area would be, where the turret ring, if you want to refer back to the separating the turret we did originally, laying on the ground, you can create the turret ring there if you wanted to. But for us, we're just going to go ahead and basically place down glowstone again around the base of the explosion, and we're just going to kind of do a pretty basic design there. So again, not anything too specific. We're just creating a core to the fire or the explosion. That's going to be the hottest part that has that that effect to it. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and, of course, just like we've been doing the other fires and stuff, we're going to place down our yellow stained glass around the core. Again, this is where our basically our explosion kind of originated from. This is the hottest part. This is where it's currently happening. So we are going to be going ahead and adding the yellow there to the base of the explosion. So again, kind of no random order, just here and there. And again, don't be afraid to add some orange here around the bottom. It doesn't have to be completely solid yellow. We can add some orange here and there, but the yellow here is definitely going to be more concentrated around the base of the explosion, just naturally as it would be. So again, we're just kind of adding glass panes in here, just kind of randomly, but with some sort of with reason. So we have the fire like this, and near the top here, I'm going to kind of have this pop out a little bit. So it's going to kind of, cloud out. So you can kind of think of this like a nuclear bomb going off. The explosion, it kind of goes, it's kind of contained in that one area, and it's mushrooming out. That's the way I kind of look at it. So again, up here, I'm going to do a little bit more orange around this area, but this is going to kind of stick out a little bit from the base of the explosion. So we can even bring this in a little bit more if we wanted to. But I wanted to kind of stick out a little bit more, and that's what I'm trying to show here, is the top of like this explosion that's kind of pluming out. And so we kind of get something that looks like that there. I think that's looking pretty good, and we'll just kind of round this off on the top here. Again, probably using a little bit more orange here, as this is a little bit further away from the base core of the explosion. So we have a little bit more orange up here on the top. But we're going to make this kind of come in a little bit, so it's not going to stick out as far, so it's showing a little bit of shape here to the explosion. So we get something that looks just like that. Now, with that done, we're going to switch to our smoke, and for this, we're going to be using mainly gray smoke. When I'm thinking of a catastrophic explosion, I'm thinking this is going to be pretty much all dark smoke. This pretty much hasn't had a chance to really, branch out or anything like that, or lose its concentration. So again, we're going to be using a lot of darker colored blocks in this for the smoke, really making this nice, fully thick and all that to show that this is definitely a major explosion. So pretty much most of our explosive power is going to come from this section here. That's pretty much our explosion, and then the rest is just kind of smoke, and it's being wafted up as the turret flies up. So again, just kind of giving you a little bit of an insight into my thought process behind building this. And again, we'll mix some smoke here in the cloud as well, so it's not just, again, we don't want those hard lines of just yellow, orange, and smoke. We want them intertwined between each other because explosions aren't clean. They're just a giant mess of stuff going on. So that's kind of what we get there. And also, you know, again, you can add some light gray if you wanted into it. I'm going to be very sparse with the light gray, as I think that, you know, again, this is a very concentrated amount of smoke, so it's going to be a lot darker and all that. So let me grab some glass panes here. Put probably a light gray stained glass pane right there. But yeah, so we have that look right there. That's basically the explosion effect of our turret going up in the air. Now, the next thing to really do is very similar to what we did here for the ammo racking. We're going to go ahead and just place down a lot of barrier blocks around it. So again, we're not putting these in any particular order. We are just spamming barrier blocks around the build like this to basically put a block down that we can create a button on, which will in return allow us to do like a spark effect for this. So again, we're putting these a little bit higher. This is a little bit more of a major explosion, so you're going to have a lot of sparking, especially with all this ammo exploding. So we're going to have this pretty high up as well. So once you get to the point that you're pretty satisfied with, we'll again just go ahead and spam our buttons. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect or any sort of rhyme or reason with this. It's a explosion, and explosions, there's no uniformity. It's just all over the place. So we'll even put some going up here, and again, we'll have this a little bit higher up. You know, this is a major explosion, so you're going to have a lot of stuff going on with it. So again, just kind of like this, and you guys kind of get the general idea. I'm not going to go into that too much, but you can see the effect now that we're creating here. You have your sparks flying up. It looks like a disaster. It's not good. So that's going there. And then on top here, also, we want to show our turret, or the tops of our turret open. So these hatches, these aren't going to last. They're going to be blown off. So these hatches are blown open. You can have this one laying down flat if you want to. This one maybe up like that. And again, we could add some glowstone if you wanted to. If you wanted to do fire. For this design in particular, I think I'm going to go ahead and do smoke. So I'll do a little bit of smoke that's escaping through these hatches. So again, I won't go too crazy with the smoke here, but I want to show that, like, you know, the smoke basically got shot through here. So originally there was probably fire when it was lower, but now the smoke's being pushed through with the amount of force through the turret here. So basically something kind of like that. And you have the smoke that's going through the turret, the hatches that got blown open, so you get that effect there for it. So pretty cool stuff there. I think that works really well for it. And the last thing here really is going to be, again, kind of more of a, it's probably going to be hit or miss with people. I imagine probably some people like it, some won't. But to really create the effect that, like, the shockwave of it. And these explosions are very, very massive and very strong. And what we're going to do here is we're going to be placing down barrier blocks, just kind of randomly around in a circle around the tank. And what we're going to do is we're going to put basically a bunch of buttons on these barrier blocks, which is going to create in return like dust particles or something like that being kicked up by the explosion. And you can go however high you want. I would probably recommend no more than 3 blocks. You can see most of it is at a level of probably about 2 blocks is probably the best height to have it at. But yeah, we're just basically spamming the spruce wood buttons around it. And again, it depends on the environment. If you have this in a desert environment, you'll use probably birch wood. But you're just going to go ahead and expand this all the way around it, and it's going to create this kind of shockwave type effect that is pretty cool. And we can even add in some glass. So if you wanted to, we'll grab some brown stained glass here and maybe throw that in here and there wherever we can. So maybe some brown stained glass in the process of it, so just kind of showing a little bit more effect there for it, and you can even get like a couple pieces maybe connected to each other. So kind of like this, and just again, it's very random. We're not following any sort of pattern here, but we're just placing this around to kind of show the effect of dirt and dust, debris being kicked up by the force of this explosion. So again, just kind of like this, and you can even go on the inside here and also place down buttons as well, not just on the outside, to just really show a little bit more thickness to it, the explosion. But that's kind of a general idea of what you can do there. And if you look around here, you can kind of see the effect we're going for. It just, again, shows the dirt being kicked up and that little shock wave that's going to be coming from that explosion. But with that done, that's going to round up everything we have there for the catastrophic ammo turret popping explosion. And with that, let's move to the outro. So that right there is going to conclude my tutorial here for basically showing different stages of destroying tanks and damaging vehicles and stuff like that. This concept could be applied to really anything. Modern tanks, Cold War, World War II, even if you wanted to do World War I tanks as well. This can apply to really anything in the skills with any build you're doing. Just, if you're doing some of my 2-to-1 builds, I know there were some questions about it. You just really have to scale this up. And it's pretty much just some basic concepts on how to go about doing it. This isn't supposed to be a block-by-block tutorial, so hopefully you guys got some really good ideas from this, and you can start creating some really cool scenes with your tanks being destroyed in the battlefield. And of course, don't hesitate to send me some pictures of what you guys have been able to create with this tutorial, because I love to see it, and hopefully maybe you guys can even come up with some cooler ideas than I was able to in this video. But with that, again, a big thanks to Owen Brost for commissioning this tutorial and this video. And if you guys are interested in commissioning stuff for yourself, again, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my email, garrett2by4@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to see what we can do. But with that, hope you all enjoyed this build, and I definitely look forward to seeing you guys implementing it in your worlds. With that, though, thank you all so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Garrett2by4, and I'll see you guys next time.